Hi everyone, my name is Brienne and this is Leroy Jenkins. So if you see the camera fall over, it's probably this guy. So I'll wait around for a few people to join us. A little bit about me. My name again is Brienne Smith. I am the author of the gay teen romance book Spooning Leads to Forking. I wrote this book about 10 years ago. It took me about 2 months to write it and about 10 years to edit and finally publish. So the journey's been a long time coming, but I learned a lot and I'm excited to share it with you. So for those of us joining, hello! Hi Carrie! Hi Mike! Hi everyone! So this is my first Facebook Live video, and for those of you who know me, I am such an introvert, but this is something I thought I should do to push myself and get better at public speaking and, you know, just hang out. Hi! So, I guess I'll go into a little bit about the story. The Spooning Leads to Forking is about two teenage boys, Dylan and Michael, who end up starting a competition of sorts, and it escalates to where they start getting frisky, and something goes wrong later on, and then one of them, I don't want to give it away, but something bad happens, and they have to work through those emotions. And if you know teenage boys, they're incredibly emotionally stunted at times. So it was really fun trying to get into their heads and just figure out what motivates these characters. Oh God. Well, a lot of you've known me, your friends and family, so I apologize in advance for this book. If you didn't know, it was banned on Amazon for, I guess, being too erotic, and I never really got a straight answer from them. So I published the book in January of this year. It did really well. I got about 400 in book sales the first few months, and then around April or May, Amazon pulled the book, and they didn't really give me a reason why other than throwing their terms of service at me, so I have no idea. So rather than fight them and end up getting, like, you know, booted off Amazon for good and not being able to, you know, buy cat toys for really cheap, I decided to go take another route and post the book online for free. And so the links to the free ebook are available in the description. So it's on lulu.com, and also it's available on Audible with a free 1-month trial. So the narrator of the book, Willis Miller, he is absolutely amazing and will do a much better job than I will at trying to read this book. And he's been such a trooper. I can't tell you how many times I've apologized for him just like listening over to this and being like, I can't believe I wrote this smut. So it is smut. It definitely is. There's no getting around that. Hi Mitchell. Hi. Thank you everyone for joining me. So are there any questions up front? I'll probably take some more at the end. But if you're ready, I guess I can just get to reading it. All right. Here we go. Snaps. Thanks, my snaps. Okay. Oh, and also, if you didn't know, this week is Banned Book Week, so that's why I decided to read this book, because it was banned. And because of, I'm not entirely certain of what's all the Facebook rules and regulations, I'm going to do some creative censoring on this book as well, so I'll let your imaginations fill in the words, and you can also download the book yourself too, the unedited version. So I just picked a random chapter, and here we go. Michael felt sweaty and nervous. His eyes darted from their hands to the dark expression on Dylan's face, to the bottle of lube sitting conspicuously at his thigh. He phased out the third and final round and didn't know what he threw. It could have been the Vulcan salute or a gang sign, but whatever it had been was close enough to lose. Dylan's hand pushed against his shoulder, shoving him over. I should probably explain that a bit. So Dylan and Michael came up with this way of figuring out who was on top in bed, which is rock, paper, scissors, but they decided to turn it into a gay version. So whoever lost at rock would get fisted. Yeah. Whoever lost at scissors for fingering and for paper would get bitch slapped. So that is, yeah, they're boys. So if anyone wants to use that game, by all means, but just don't hold me accountable to whatever happens to that. Hi, Sonia. Hi. All right. Wait, Michael gasped, not actually suicidal enough to resist. He slipped when Dylan yanked off his pants and boxer shorts and ended up on his stomach. He clutched at his ransacked sheets as he stared blankly round-eyed at the headboard in front of him. Dylan pressed a hand against his lower back, and Michael's spine creaked when he shifted over him and mounted his legs. Michael heard the plastic click of a bottle cap opening, and a cold drizzle fell right along his crack. He heard a second click and a thump as Dylan presumably closed the cap and tossed the tube somewhere. Michael bit his lip and bucked when fingers smeared into the line of jelly. He shivered when Dylan pushed between his, let's say donut for that word, donut cheeks, down over his twitching donut hole, and behind his, we're going to call those jingle bells. Yep. Before sweeping back up again. You look like such a... Man, I really should have figured out these words beforehand. You look like such a biscuit right now. No, not biscuit, just fill in that word. You know that, Michael. Look at you getting ready for me to fudge your tight donut. Sorry. Fudge your tight donut and pop your sweet little cherry. You'd like that, huh? Dylan leaned over Michael's back and shoved a knee between his thighs, forcing them apart while almost kneeing him in the junk. Michael honestly didn't know if that narrowly averted disaster was accidental or on purpose. Dylan's murmurs were low and oddly tender, cutting right through Michael as he violated him with words and actions. He ran his thumb over his donut hole and curved his fingers around his jingle bells. He pressed in with the tip of his thumb until the puckered opening gave way and sucked around the intrusion. For those of us just joining us in, not having a clue what I'm reading, this is my story, Spooning Lisa Forking, and I am doing some creative censoring on this to make it a little more Facebook friendly. So, continuing. Michael's throat quivered and he swallowed convulsively as he buried his head in his arms. He was unable to escape Dylan's erotic violation, but he didn't exactly want to either. You'd better not friggin' go to sleep on me, Mikey. Dylan's growl reverberated through Michael's back. His head came up with a startled gasp when Dylan twisted his hands and stuffed 2 fingers inside of him. He mockingly worked his index and middle fingers apart in a parody of scissoring. I am going to pound that boy part of yours so hard you're going to feel it for weeks. I shouldn't even be using lube. Just ride you raw and dry like you did me. Michael's entire body trembled. He pushed away and into Dylan's fingers like he couldn't get away fast enough and like he couldn't get enough. Dylan pulled his hand back after only the barest amount of preparation. He had to wedge himself between Michael's legs since he wasn't getting up to make the position any easier. Damn, you take it like a biscuit, Hernandez, Dylan grunted as he grappled with Michael's slippery cheeks and thighs while trying to push in. The sharp stab of discomfort and Michael's low moans meant he'd found what he was looking for. Both of them groaned as Dylan rocked against him without any more idea about what he was doing other than item A went into slot B. Dylan wiggled his hands under Michael's chest as he spread himself out over his back. He had enough of his pastrami inside that he was fairly certain he wasn't going to pop out. He gave him a reach around to palm his cupcakes. I must be hungry right now. To palm his cupcakes and strum his thumbnail against Michael's tight little nipples. That finally got Michael squirmy, but otherwise he just lay there. He might not have been any help at all, but he didn't resist Dylan either. In fact, he was so not resistant that Dylan could have been jumping a corpse for all that his cooperation mattered. A really hot corpse with good teeth, if he was into that sort of thing. Michael hissed in pain every once in a while on an inward push. His breathing became stunted at times, but he didn't moan or move or buck his hips. He gave away nothing about how losing his donut virginity was affecting him. His lack of response annoyed Dylan, so he bit his shoulder savagely when he frosted without warning. We'll just keep up the food analogies. Michael finally cried out and arched against him in a restrained struggle at the unexpected violence and gush of frosting spurting into him. No condom for you, Biscuit, Dylan thought as he grinned to himself. He was embarrassingly smug about the nasty squelching sounds that filled up the space between them as he dumped his load into Michael's donut. I have to put a disclaimer. I was barely out of my teens myself when I wrote this, and I am mildly horrified at myself for actually publishing this, but it's whatever. I do have current projects that I'm working on now that are a little more toned down, or at least they're more fleshed out with action, adventure, fighting, all that with all of this. Michael grunted when Dylan flopped against his back. He was heavy as fudge for such a scrawny dude. Are you gonna cry? Dylan's taunting voice came gleefully over his shoulder seconds later. He squeezed Michael's cupcakes in his hands and nuzzled his face between his sweaty shoulder blades, obviously in no hurry to go anywhere anytime soon. Because of how much you sucked at that, Michael said, huffing and squirming uncomfortably. Then yeah, I think I will. Carrie, it could be Chuck Tingle. God. As soon as I start writing about gay pornographic helicopters, then please just put me out of my misery. I'll try not to go there. Michael yelped when Dylan bit him again and pinched his nipples. He struggled in an unexpected panic when Dylan tried to push him over onto his back, probably to punch him in the throat for lying there like a dead fish the whole time. Dude, no, get off! Michael gripped what was left of the covers on his bed and shuddered when Dylan's wet pastrami slipped out of him, leaving a trail of slime down his thighs and trickling out of his sore donut. Dylan's fingers dug into Michael's armpits viciously. Michael's scream and subsequent flailing weren't enough to knock him off. Instead, Dylan shoved him onto his back and sat on his legs to hold him down, hands tight around Michael's straining biceps. Dylan opened his mouth to claim victory when his breath stuttered and soul straight out of his lungs. He stared down at Michael in shocked disbelief. Holy fudge, man, Dylan breathed. His eyes darted between Michael's messy, limp pastrami to his bright red face. You frosted from that? How could you possibly fudging frost? Michael groaned and turned his face away from Dylan's scrutiny. He was unable to cover himself while Dylan held him down. His belly and thighs were a cooling, incriminating mess. Oh my God, you liked it. Was it the nipples? It was the nipples, wasn't it? Michael's skin went hot all the way up to his ears. He struggled to roll back over, but Dylan held him down and stared at him like he'd found the holy grail for queers. God, just leave it alone, Dylan. Michael was uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Dylan looked ecstatic at this newest discovery. Shut up, no, this is great. Now you never have to fudge me again with that Loch Ness monster between your legs again. You can bend over and be my biscuit from now on, Michael. Dylan didn't give him a chance to respond. He climbed off and pushed Michael over into their mess as he cuddled up to him from behind. He kissed and nuzzled his neck while he rubbed him down like Michael had done before. He giggled in annoyingly random outbursts until Michael elbowed him in the ribs with a put-upon sigh. It had been someone's awesome idea to begin their epic quest into Gatham on a Friday. There was no real reason for them to crawl out of bed and have to fake perkiness the next day, or try to hide the bite marks and bruises broken out all over their skin like a vicious rash. They dozed off a few times and reawakened to shuffle around limbs while trying to get acclimated to another body. They couldn't stay asleep for long and didn't try. Each time Dylan turned over in the unbreakable circle of Michael's arms, he stretched up and kissed him. His lips found Michael's unerringly, even after the sky outside his window had gone dark with the disappearance of time and daylight. Dylan was hesitant to kiss him like that, unbidden, but he was relieved when Michael met him each time, mouth soft and warm welcoming. Dylan could have easily let himself get overwhelmed with the way they couldn't stop touching each other. But he felt safe and hidden in the dark. They had the blankets pulled up over their heads as they kept each other half awake all night. He lost the battle in his mind as Michael's lips and fingertips discovered new inches of skin to explore. He was dazed by how good he could feel, how tired, with Michael's hands obsessively mapping his body. They kissed until their mouths were sore and their tongues went numb. Then they lipped sleepily at each other's chin, neck, and face until their bodies collapsed, tangled together and exhausted in the soft illumination of morning. Okay, so I guess I will pause there. Are there any, I don't know if I want to open it up for comments after all that, but if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear them. And so, again, for the unedited version without all the biscuits and donuts, the link to the free ebook and audiobook is in the description below. So I am working on several projects right now. I actually, with a few of my friends, we started a writing group and we've been doing a lot of short stories, which I have up on Wattpad right now. Oh, yay! Mitchell. He's one of our founding members. So we've done a few short stories with Asia Black, who's amazing. She's been teaching us how to do songwriting, and which also translates into fiction writing. It's super cool. And I'm also working on several long series fiction action adventures, so hopefully those will be coming out in the next year or two. Hi! Yes. Let's see. So I am also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, obviously, so feel free to follow me, follow my pages, like my random smut. And also, if you've read the book or listened to this and enjoyed it, if you happen to, please consider leaving a review. You can leave a review on Goodreads or Lulu.com, because if you search for it in Amazon, they buried it so deep it's almost impossible to find, but the audiobook is still up there until, someone tattles on me or gives me away, kind of thing. Bye, Mitchell. Thank you for coming. Aw. So, yeah, and that was my live reading of Spooning Leads to Forking. So, I guess if we don't have any questions or anything like that, we can probably wrap it up, because that was a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's people who I'd love and talk to anyway in person. So thank you again so much for coming, and buy my book. It's free. So yeah, there you go. Love you guys. Thank you.